חודש קצת מוגזם, שפטו אותי למוות. ישבתי על כיסא חשמל, נפרדתי מהפרייבט.
Welcome back. My name is Andrea Levine. I am the program director at Temple Beth, and I am so honored to be filling in for the wonderful Rabbi Aklepi as she enjoys the last moments of her well-deserved vacation. I realized when I watched back last week that there's a Zoom delay, so when I'm jamming to the music, I'm totally off. I just want to assure you all that I have really good rhythm and do not trust Zoom. So again, I am the program director at Temple Beth, and Thursdays are such a highlight of my week because I get to go from producing Rabbi Aklepi's 5:30 happy hour show right into producing Cantor Nelson's 7 o'clock show featuring Jewish musicians from around the country. So I get to engage with two of my favorite things about being Jewish and being a part of Temple Beth, which is schmoozing with our fabulous congregants and listening to and loving music. So it's very exciting to be on this side of the camera once more. Thanks again to Neil Littauer for filling my role as producer. So in thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, you know, obviously these are unprecedented times for everyone. And if I had $1 for every time I heard somebody say unprecedented times, I would spend that money on a vaccine. But anyway, for me, it's been quite a whirlwind because just as Florida was starting to shut down, the temple closed, the pandemic was really starting to hit, I got engaged. Yay! It was very exciting. And it was such a wonderful feeling to feel like I got such an amazing outpouring of support from my community, from my friends all over the world, not just because they were happy for me, but I think also it was just such a relief at the time and still to just hear any good news. Quick shout out to Carrie Altman, the director of admissions at Temple Beth Day School, who introduced me to my fiance. She met this cute Jewish lawyer at a party and said, "Boy, have I got a girl for you." And that's a very long story short. And the rest is history. We've been together ever since. So we enjoy the magic of engagement. We've moved into our new place. We're quarantining together. And now comes the fun of trying to plan a wedding in a pandemic. So this has, of course, been a source of great stress to me and to many other brides-to-be that I know. So I thought we should maybe bring in an expert to really dive deep into weddings in general, as well as weddings in COVID. But first, true to form, as I like to say, we're going to start with a cocktail because it's happy hour. I did do a Prosecco drink last week, but I thought it appropriate to continue with the bubbly while we're on the theme of weddings. I didn't spring for champagne because I've recently learned that champagne's really only worth drinking if you're going to get the good stuff, and wasn't able to do that this week. So we did go with this nice Chloe Prosecco, which I do enjoy. And I call this drink the Blushing Bride. It is a very simple drink, just how I like it. We're going to add some Prosecco. Of course, you can use sparkling apple cider or, you know, a non-alcoholic sparkling wine to make a mocktail. We're going to add just a splash of vodka. I do want to apologize to Bob Hirsch that it is not Tito's, but this was the vodka that I had laying around the house for the 2 times a year that I drink vodka. This is one of them. Just a little splash of vodka, just to spice it up a little bit. We're going to top it off. We got to make it blush. So we're going to add some fresh strawberries that I just chopped up. You know what? We're just going to add a bunch of them because I love strawberries and I look forward to being a blushing bride. You know, I don't think I even have to mix this around. We'll have it shaken, not stirred. My fiance is a big James Bond fan. Oh, that's good. That's good. I would have never thought to put vodka in Prosecco, but here we have it. I have to experiment more with cocktails. So now that we're a little bit prepped and ready for what is often an intense conversation for me, I want to bring on an expert in all things wedding. She is a longtime Beth leader, a beloved member of our membership committee, along with a host of other things, which I'm going to let her talk about. I would love to welcome my special guest for today, Michelle Serafin. Come on in, Michelle. I'll give you that Zoom beat.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi. Boy, am I glad to see you. I've got a lot of questions. L'chaim. See, this is a girl after my own heart. 4 cups of wine, Levine respects a nice glass of red at the end of the day. So Michelle, thank you so much for joining me on the show. Again, when I think about wedding, I think about Beth Am, I think about you. So I certainly have a ton of questions for you about that. But first, for our viewers who maybe don't know you as well, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been at Beth Am? What made you want to get involved in leadership at Beth Am? And I mentioned that you have been on the membership committee and our executive. So tell us more about your time with Beth Am.
Okay, great. Can you hear me?
I can. You sound great.
Great. Well, first of all, mazel tov on your engagement.
Thank you.
Sorry it has to be during these crazy times, but it's all good. It's still exciting. I don't have any prosecco, but I'll take a sip of wine in your honor. So a little bit about myself. Well, I grew up in Miami, was born and raised here. I met my husband on a blind date, and I've been married for 33 years. So that's good news for you, for meeting on a blind date.
Well, it was mostly blind because Eric really doesn't have any social media. So all I could find was his headshot from his work website. So it was mostly
I didn't have that 35 years ago.
Right.
We have 3 grown children, 2 boys aged 30 and 29, and our daughter is 25. They're all living in Miami, so I'm very fortunate. They're all working. I'm very fortunate. And so we get to see them during the pandemic, which is really nice. I know a lot of people don't have that pleasure or honor, but we're excited about that. When our oldest was starting kindergarten, we were in public school. We decided it was time to join a temple. So it was about 25 years ago. I wanted to join Bet Beira. My husband wanted to join Beth Am because he's from Great Neck, and he said it's more like Great Neck and Beth Am kind of went together. So I let him decide. I wasn't happy at first, but I will say it turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life and our life. All our kids were in religious school. They were all bar bat mitzvah. They were all confirmed. They loved it. They made a million friends, and a lot of them that they're still friends with today. And same with myself. About 15 years ago, I became a member of the board of directors. Was on that for 7 or 8 years, and then I was on the executive committee, and I was vice president of membership. And for 5 or 6 years, I did that. Before I was on the board, I got hooked up with Rita. I don't really remember how initially. So I was always kind of helping her vice president. I was always helping out all her committees, and we became great friends. I love Rita dearly. To this day, we talk almost every day. So then I was on her vice president for 5 or 6 years. And I now not on the board for the first time. So it's time for new young people to go in.
Absolutely. Well, 5 or 6 years, members. That's a lot of new members to welcome. That's amazing.
But it was, like I said, joining Beth Am was probably one of the best things, I ever did. And I'm glad that I let my husband make that decision.
Absolutely.
Some of my best friends even today.
Have been and continue to have you. So let's talk weddings. Tell me how you entered the field of wedding planning. How does one even get into that field? You've always been passionate about. Tell me all about it.
So I think for me, everybody, probably has different ways of getting into it. But for me, the first time I really thought about it, and I really didn't think about weddings at first, when I was planning my kids' bar bat mitzvahs, I had so much fun, planning it and the whole events. I just thought it was because it's a fun time for everybody. Everybody's in a good mood. Everybody's happy.
Right.
Pretty much most of the time. The end result is always so. Afterwards, and I started helping some of my friends with theirs. But at that time I was not working. I stayed home with my kids, but they were starting to grow up a little. So I was starting to think about what I want to do when I grew up. So I didn't love like the whole theme of bar. I didn't love the theme stuff as much as I just liked the party. So one day I was reading the newspaper, having coffee, and I just saw like an ad for Miami-Dade had a class on wedding planning. So I thought, oh, that would be fun. I like, so I ended up taking the class, and it gave me the kind of the confidence. So I learned a lot of things that I didn't know, like doing timelines and just certain things. And there was like 12 of us in the class, and a few of us, we got to do some assist the teacher in some of the weddings that she was planning. So we got some, great experience. We went to some meetings with her, and then it was a pretty easy class. I mean, it wasn't like anything, crazy, but kind of gave me the confidence.
Out for you like that.
Yeah, it kind of gave me the confidence. And then, I had a few acquaintances that I just kind of did it for free for a couple at first, just to get my feet wet. Mm-hmm. And so now it's been about 12 years. Wow. And it's not free anymore. So yeah, that's kind of just how I took baby steps in the beginning, and now I'm just really, deep into it.
Sure. And what would you say is the most gratifying part of the job?
Well, what I really love, there's a few things, there's a number of things, but I've met some amazing families, and just gotten to be friends with, everybody's family, their family members, the in-laws, the sisters, and just everybody's always so nice and fun. And I really enjoyed just getting to know people in this process. I enjoy, when the wedding's over, we probably, well, let me go back. We probably have 5,000 phone calls and text messages. So when it ends, it's kind of sad. It's always a little sad. I miss them. So we kind of keep in touch a little bit. So that's one of the things I miss, the people. I love the people. That's one of the things that I love is meeting new people. I love dress shopping. It's one of the things I love, going shopping with the girls and helping them pick out their dresses, because I'm kind of like, I'm very honest with them. Yeah. Sometimes they're, whatever. Sometimes the mom is a little nervous to say she doesn't like something. Not all moms. Some are.
Well, it's a delicate dance, right? Because if the bride super loves it, you don't want to be telling her all the things wrong with it.
Right. So sometimes, but sometimes it's just like so kind. Like I see so many of them, so it's just so common. Right. Well, so I'm probably the most honest, and they listen to me sometimes more than than somebody else. So, that's one of the things. Sorry, there's a plane going over my.
Sorry.
And what I love too is just, the day of, when everything all comes together, all the hours of planning and everything just flows, and it's just a fun night. It's just fun to see it all come together, come to fruition at the end. It's great.
That I can relate to. As I've never planned a wedding. Well, working on my best. I certainly have planned a lot of programs, and some of them, especially when they have so many moving parts. It's also feeling of being in it and knowing that it's flowing. There's kind of nothing like it. That idea of flow, where you're doing something you're good at, that's challenging to you, and you're killing it. There's no feeling like that in the world.
And you, as the bride, would have no idea if it's really flowing properly or not. But believe me, I do, and I do. And it's just one of the other things I really love is bringing the bride and groom into the ballroom. Like before the guests come in, and just to see their expressions on their face as they see their vision, so it's kind of cool to see that too. Sometimes they cry.
I did recently have the experience of going shopping for my wedding dress, and it was definitely very cool and special and matched.
Did you say yes?
I won't share them because I'm keeping them private, but there's something. I kind of love the idea that I will forever have these pictures of me wedding dress shopping in a mask on. It's just such a product of its time. So,
I have a question though. Did you say yes to the dress?
I sure did say yes to the dress.
All right.
I won't say too much about it, except that it was the first one it was one of those things where the first one I tried on was a wow. And all the ones after that we loved, but every time he'd say, you know, I love this about this, and I love this about this, but I still just really love that first one. So that was really fun, because I remember the first time that I went with a friend to get her dress, and it was actually at Kleinfeld's in New York when I used to live in New York. And it was the same way. She came out with that first one, and it was a wow. And every single one afterwards was also beautiful, but it was just, you know, I really like that first one. So it was a nice feeling, like
It
knowing
is. Sometimes I can tell by
the one I thought I'd go with, but once you see it on, it's like you just know.
sometimes I feel like I can tell by the expression on their face if it's the right one or not too. You can just see that glow.
For sure.
You know.
Well, and it's kind of fun. I had a similar experience in thinking about a ring, of feeling like I don't know exactly what I want, and then the more you look, you kind of realize, like, actually, I do know exactly what I want. I just needed someone to guide me in the right direction. That was certainly the case with the ring and the dress, but just like I always knew what I wanted. So.
When I got engaged, I don't know. I don't think girls were telling the guys what they wanted, and back, 35 years ago. God, and I was happy. I don't think I knew the different shapes. I don't think I really thought about it.
I don't even have my ears pierced. Like, I do not wear jewelry. I had no idea about what to get, but also we went together, and sort of that experience of picking it out together was, in some ways, it was even more powerful than actually presenting it to me, because it was just like special.
I still have my original engagement ring.
Oh, too far away.
My husband likes to tell me it was his paper route money when he was 13.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. Well, so again, I'm in the early stages of this, right? I mean, it's hard to even know where to begin, especially in this time, which we'll get to. But pandemic aside, what is your advice? To someone who just got engaged, where does one even start when thinking about the beginnings of planning a wedding? What is the most important thing to consider?
Well, the most important thing is to hire a wedding planner, of course.
Yes, of course. I will not force you to give away all your trade secrets, but maybe tease it.
That's obvious, isn't it? And then after you hire the wedding planner, she will tell you, or she or he will tell you, you really kind of need to decide a budget, an idea of a budget, the time of year, and approximate number of guests. So, you can't tell me you want to have 300 people, but then you want to get married at, this little venue that you're in love with on Miami Beach. It has this beautiful ballroom that holds 100. So you really have to decide those main things first, and then we can go from there. Then I would make suggestions depending on budget, again, time of year, and the number of people. Definitely. Those are the main things just before you really do anything.
Are you ever consulted on the guest list? Like, when I imagine that's the hardest part, according to all of my friends, and from my experience, is I can't invite 500 people to my wedding. I wish I could. Actually, I don't wish I could. Right. Are you ever brought in to consult on that as a third party?
But once you really start going through your list, you can start eliminating. You start with an initial list, a wish list, and then you go from there. And then you start, people from work, or we always say the people from work are usually the first to go, because 2 years from now, you may not work there, and you'll never speak to them again.
Right. Well, and also then it becomes, you invite one person, you have to invite everybody. It becomes very political.
It's really right, especially at Beth. That's another. I don't even know how many people that involves for you.
I can't even begin to wrap my mind around that. Listen, I'm thinking of it as a blessing, right? I'm somebody I've lived in a lot of places, and throughout my life, I've just, I've made a lot of relationships, so it's very hard. And I'm also blessed with a massive family. I mean, for me, just my immediate family with first cousins and aunts and uncles is 50 people. So that definitely puts a damper on the friend part of the list. But I, really, you can't make any other decisions until you.
Right. Or, if somebody says to me, I only have what's this much amount to spend, we can work with any budget, but I really want to get married at the Mandarin, and I'm going to say, well, sorry, you're not getting married there unless you have 20 people, so you really have to have an idea of those, the budget and the number of people are really important. So and don't get stuck on one specific date, because It's Miami's very busy. Well, not this year, but it's very busy. And sometimes your date is taken, so you have to be a little flexible.
Yeah. Well, I think flexible is the name of the game in general these days. But so I think there are a lot of obvious reasons why it's beneficial to hire a wedding planner, just in terms of like having someone to handle stuff. But what are some like reasons that you can specifically pinpoint, maybe that people wouldn't immediately think of, where a wedding planner really will make such a difference in your day?
Well, I think it helps that I have a great relationship with a number of vendors that I've become, I work with a lot. So we work very well together. So that is, and I know like ways to, things that aren't necessary that you don't really need, and things that you need, things that you would need that maybe you wouldn't think of.
Right.
I don't know, like an example, like, a caterer may say, we give you one bartender for every 75 people. I'm going to tell you, that's fine, but not for cocktail hour. Because we know as Jews, a long line at the bar is not going to work.
No bueno.
Like that I just know from experience that you need.
Right.
So I have great relationship with so many vendors, but also they always want to do a good job for me because they want to keep using them.
That's true.
So, and also like some I've had people tell me, well, this venue has a planner. I can hire their planner for $300 for the day of. But the reality is that person doesn't really work for you.
Right. They work for the venue.
I'm the one that will always have your back no matter what.
Right.
And through the planning process, I get to know you really well so that on the day of the wedding, when there is emergencies, which there will be many decisions to make during the setup, there's all kinds of things that happen. And I am comfortable making those decisions for you. Otherwise, you're going to be getting phone calls all day long and not enjoying the getting ready process.
That's right. The getting ready. I mean, I've never been a bride before, but I have been a bridesmaid 7 times, 8. I lost count. A lot. And the getting ready part is the best part. I love being a bridesmaid specifically for that reason.
Right. It is fun. And, if the bride is going to be distracted the entire day, because I trust me, she will be.
Yes.
There's a lot of things, or she's going to walk in the room and not be happy because there's going to be things that she didn't want. It just happened. You just can't help it.
Right. There's so many moving parts that you don't even really immediately think
There's so many parts until you get into it. You can't imagine.
Yeah.
Also, I feel that the time, I mean, you plan for a year and the whole day comes down to like 2 pieces of paper that's on a timeline.
Right.
That vendors have, and that's what we follow through the day. And it's really important to make sure you have a timeline that flows properly from the first person that's getting makeup done in the morning through the very end of the night.
Yes.
So, and I'm making sure that everything is on time, and so that's really important, the timeline, and making sure the
hardest part, getting all the bridesmaids ready. I've been there.
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna have something like 10 bridesmaids, so it's gonna be a challenge.
Oh God.
Yeah.
But
none of them are editable. I need them all.
And I do have on the day of your wedding, I have an assistant, and we're there from the first time the first vendor shows up for the setup and through the very end of the night. You're going to have, for a Jewish wedding, I'm just going to stick to Jewish weddings, you're going to have at your house, you're going to have ketubas, you're going to have yarmulkes, you're going to have place cards, you're going to have napkins, you're going to have all kinds of crap.
Yeah.
And, I would take all that from you, and, so you don't have to worry about any of it. It's going to magically be in place when you show up.
And a pen for the ketubah. I've been several weddings when no one remembered to bring a pen. The smallest thing.
I remind you to bring a pen, don't worry.
And not a pen that leaks. I have seen it. So to move a little bit into our sort of current situation, one of the challenges, but also blessings that I got to experience since we've been in pandemic is that my brother, just a few months before I got engaged, my older brother who lives in Aventura, and his wedding date was set for June 28th. And they went back and forth and decided, we you know, we're in our late 30s. We don't want to wait anymore. We are getting married on June 28th, whatever that looks like. So we ended up having a backyard wedding at my sister-in-law. No, she's my sister-in-law. At her parents' house in Bay Harbor Island. And actually, it was beautiful. I will throw in the plug that she did use a wedding planner and told me that it's a must. Even with her very small wedding, she said, it is the best decision I ever made. I highly recommend it. But it certainly got me thinking a lot about, you know, what's really important about a wedding. What are the things that I really, really want to focus on? It ended up being an absolutely beautiful experience. I hope to have more than a dozen people at my wedding, but it was nice to know that should it come to that, God forbid, I can still have an experience that's really special and meaningful.
Right.
So tell me a little bit more about, like, what is your job like right now? How are you handling weddings in the time of COVID? And then also, what kinds of things are you seeing, you know, sort of creative ways that people are responding to this moment in the wedding industry?
So, you know, it is tough. Oh, sorry, put them down. You know, because I'll talk to different vendors, you know, periodically, and we all just don't, nobody knows. Nobody knows. We just don't know. That's what we all say. We wish we had the answer. We wish we had a crystal ball. We could read the future. So, you know, it's either basically what you said just now, you know, the backyard, small, 12 people, maybe 25 people. I think you're allowed possibly up to 50, but I don't even know if it's that high anymore. It might be down to 25, but you know, things have changed. It's really basically, you're either very mature and you just go with the flow and say, hey, I only care about getting married. I'm going to just forget the whole big thing. Mom, I'll take the money and run. Or say,
yeah,
but you know,
that's definitely one aspect of it is put all that towards a house. But
you know,
I want to.
I know. You know, some of the things that I've talked with other vendors about that may happen in the future. Again, we don't know. They, you know, if they start to allow, say, even 100, again, we don't know when that's going to happen. Maybe the tables, instead of 10 and 12 people at a table, we might have tables of 8 and spread them out a little more. You know, that's one thing that came up. You know, I was talking to a florist last week, and he was telling me that he's doing a lot of these, everything's at a house, basically. They're at a house. If they want to do the small wedding, they're at a house. What he's done now, if there's a huppah, he hangs like a 2x3 plexiglass between him and the bride and groom, so they don't have to wear a mask.
Interesting.
So I thought that was really I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah,
so that they don't have to. So I thought that was great. He just hangs it, and you can't really even barely see it because it's clear. He said another thing he saw at a small wedding, even if it's 30 people, and if you wanted to do a little hora, they had napkins, so everybody held a napkin. So
hands in a circle, they held napkins. That's so cute.
I don't think you can do it with 200 people, but with, you know, a small wedding, I think you can get away and do that. But I would have never thought of that. I thought
no, that's so creative. I love that.
I thought that was really, really creative. You know, my son was invited to a wedding somewhere in South America. I can't remember exactly where it was. It was supposed to be Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that didn't happen, but the couple decided we're getting married. So they got married because they said it'll never happen there for years, wherever. I can't remember where the destination was. And so they decided they're bringing it where they lived in Fort Lauderdale. They had it the family went inside for a ceremony. They came outside. They had some mariachis playing, and they had all their friends do like a drive-by in front of the hotel. They gave out little goodie bags to everybody in their car, and they were married, and they were super happy. So I thought that was, you know, kind of a cool idea.
You know, sometimes when we're given, like, the more limitations we're given, the more creativity can come out of it. You know, that's some silver lining to this. I mean, I was even thinking that way before the pandemic with, you know, thinking about doing stuff like Beth with half the space while we're under construction. And sometimes some really amazing ideas came out of, like, being told what you can't do. And it makes room for things that you can do that you maybe thought of differently. Having said that,
you know,
I hope to have more than 20 people at my wedding. That's not even close to all of my family, let alone his.
Well, I think back in March, I think it was March 14th was a Sunday. I had a wedding the following weekend, the 21st. It was Sunday, March 15th was the first time something on the news came out. 50 people or less was allowed starting Monday.
Right.
So I had this hysterical bride. We had a wedding in, 6 days. So it was horrible. I can't even, and who thought back in March that we would be here today still living this mess?
I remember initially telling my brother, it's going to be fine by June 28th. Don't worry. Maybe it'll be a little smaller because people don't want to travel. It'll be fine. It was fine, but not in the way that I thought.
Right. I mean, I don't think any of us expected it to still be this crazy. And, she rescheduled for November 28th. And I think I'm going to I don't know what's going to happen with this girl. It's going to be awful.
Well, that's when it's really tricky, right? At a certain point, it became like, okay, if you planned for the summer, that's definitely out. But fall is like, we don't know yet. Like you said, we just don't know.
We don't. But
it's one of the hardest things.
A month ago, I said to her, "Don't we have 4 months?" Because she wasn't ready to do anything, and now it's like 3 months.
Right.
All of a sudden, and it's going to be September, so it's not good. It's just sad for people that aren't really that flexible.
Right. Well, and it's, in general, I think one of the hardest things about this situation is these sort of like milestone events that have been taken, whether it's graduation or, I have friends who are sending their kid to kindergarten for the first time, and it's not going to be that epic, oh my God, baby's first day of school, that sort of thing, and sort of our orientation to all these things. But I also get a lot of like, well, you could just go to the court and get it done and then have a party a year from now. And I'm like, yes, I know. I can't do that. But I think that's probably going to be, there's going to be a lot of big first year anniversary parties in 2021 and 22 for that reason.
I do have a couple people that are just going to, they're probably just going to get married with with family only on their original date. And then we have another date in the future for a bigger party. Yeah. And they'll decide as they get closer if they actually do a ceremony again or just do a big party.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, my reaction to that is like, do I really want to do that? It's kind of weird, but then at the same time, it's actually not going to be weird because actually a lot of people are going to be doing that. It's going to be this new normal.
I think a lot of them are also going to, a lot of them are doing that. They're getting married on the original date and then just doing something later on when they feel safe.
I was able to be at my brother's wedding because I live in Miami and he's in Aventura, but the rest of my family who don't live here weren't able to be there. So we just got the photos back from his wedding and he actually took photos with them on an iPad. And I was like, how is this going to work? Actually, the photos were adorable. And it's such a product of the moment. It's certainly unforgettable. I mean, is it what anybody wanted? Of course not, but I always said, I wanted a really good engagement story. Like I didn't care how I got proposed to. I just hoped it was a good story. Getting engaged at the beginning of a pandemic, that's my greatest wish is that my kids don't believe me. Like, Mom, that never could have happened. Like, so crazy that the world would have done that. You're lying.
I still some days just can't believe that we're still living this. But I think some of the girls that are just doing the small weddings are keeping their photographer because they're not always getting their deposits back. So that's a whole nother issue. That's a whole nother problem, but
for sure.
It's crazy.
Well, before I let you go, I want to hear just a little bit about some of your favorite memories of weddings you've done, maybe at Beth or beyond. I'm thinking specifically of Cantor Nelson's daughter Rebecca's wedding because I stalked it vociferously on Facebook and Instagram, and it was beautiful, and her dress was to die for. She was a beautiful bride, and the whole thing was gorgeous. So that's the first one that comes to mind again because of
so.
But tell us a little bit about weddings.
I've done many weddings at Beth and I love Beth. I think one of the very special things about it is that when you after your ceremony, you can open up the air wall and turn all the lights off in the sanctuary, and you have your huppah lit up. I just think it's just a beautiful backdrop. It's special. I will talk about Cantor Nelson because although, well, yeah, I will talk about Cantor Nelson for a minute because that really was a very special night for a few reasons. You know, she has two daughters that are beyond grateful for anything their mom can provide for them. They know how hard she's worked all these years at Beth, and it was refreshing.
Yeah.
They are just kind. They're simple.
Yeah.
They didn't, you know, they had no interest in anything over the top. Everything was just simple, elegant. And it was just I just felt there was so much love and kindness and caring that whole night. I felt it from them.
Right.
And I felt it from them for each other.
Yeah.
Like they truly are just really grateful, special people. Yeah. So that really was a really special night for me. I mean, I've known Cantor Nelson for 40 years, but yeah, we go way back. It's a long story. A really long story. I'll tell you another day in your office.
To the next show.
Oh my God. It's crazy. So, yeah, that was just very special, memorable. And I do have to mention one other thing because I think she might be listening because she told me she might be.
Uh-huh.
If I don't mention Cantor Lisa Siegel's wedding, that was in
Lisa Siegel, we love her. My St. Pete girl.
Her son got married in this past December, so we got it in, you know, just in time because thank God. Yeah. And yes, that was an amazing night too. That ceremony, she had all this clergy, she had a lot of clergy participate, and it was probably one of the most beautiful ceremonies at Temple Beth Shalom. It was like I get like goosebumps thinking about that ceremony. It was amazing. So I love both of my cantors, and I feel honored that I was a part of their lives and their special days. And so
have you done a lot of like destination weddings, or do you mostly stay local?
I mostly stay local, but I will say Monday is the anniversary of I've done a couple destinations, but Monday is the anniversary of one of my favorites. I've had a couple that I loved. But last year, I think today or tomorrow, I was on a plane to Napa. So we planned a beautiful wedding in Napa in Calistoga. It was, I would recommend it to anybody. Take a smaller wedding and just go to Napa. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's fun. The weather's amazing. And it was in August, and it was a little warm during the day, but by night it's just really nice there.
Have you ever done a wedding in St. Petersburg?
No, I have not. I've done a wedding in New Orleans. New Orleans was fun.
Really? My old stomping ground. Where was the wedding in New Orleans?
It was at an Omni. And it was in like Bourbon. I don't remember the name of the street. It wasn't
Canal Street.
Yes. Yeah. And it was fun. We had a good time. It was a big party.
Yeah. Well, we know how to party in New Orleans. I still count it as one of my many homes. Well, Michelle,
we drove through Tulane and we saw a lot of the city.
Roll wave. Shout out to all my Tulane people. Michelle, I can't thank you enough for being on the show today. This has been a blast.
Thank you.
Have given me a lot to think about as a burgeoning bride. And I'm so grateful to you for coming on, and for everybody for watching. Wishing you all an Erev Tov, and be sure to turn into Cantor Nelson's show tonight. We have a very special show. Alana Arian and Chava Morel are going to be our guests. They're two very exciting musicians in contemporary Jewish music, and I'm hoping to bring them to Beth later this year, assuming, you know, the world changes and people can travel. But stay tuned, get a sneak peek tonight. Next week we'll be back with Rabbi Aklepi. I'll be on the other side of the camera, but I can't wait for next Thursday to wish you another Erev Tov. Erev Tov, everyone.
קיבלתי עונש קצת מוגזם, שפטו אותי למוות. ישבתי על כיסא חשמל, נפרדתי מהפרייבט. ויכולתי לפחות להחליף את הכיסאות. כי אומרים בדרך כלל משנה מקום, משנה מזל. אני שואל, אתם עונים, האם זה פייר? ולא יודעים, אח שלי אסף בולים לכן עבד בדואר